if you're paralyzed from the waist down, that's not who you are. That's just a circumstance that you're conquering life with, and you're conquering life differently. A good buddy.
What's up, Seïtos? Welcome back to Saint-Julie, Quebec, Canada, inside my podcast dojo. This is the Sensei Says podcast. I am Sensei Pascal, and my mission here is to deliver you inspirational conversations with awesome people from which we identify 3 pieces of advice to improve our lives on a particular subject. I hope you're doing good. Thank you for watching on YouTube or listening on your favorite platform. This week's guest is a Swiss Army knife for Spartan Race, the largest obstacle racing company in the world, a jack of all trades. He's also a proud founder of Team Believe 923, a volunteering group helping out adaptive athletes realize their athletic dreams. None other than the always suave, my good friend from OCR, Nelson Runaway Diaz.
Yeah, I'm actually heading home from church.
I feel grateful I'm second to Jesus.
yeah, some might say a close second.
Well, you know me, I like competition.
Good luck with that one.
I remember the weekend that we saw each other in Whistler. That was such a terrible weekend in terms of weather, because the race itself, the venue, the production team, that was the first event produced by the US team in right. Canada. That was an awesome event, but it rained all freaking weekend. I remember I had to man the booth from Spartan SGX and coach people to do obstacles and so on. And we had a tent. Like the first day of the race, I think was on Saturday. We did okay, some light rain, but throughout the night, I remember the next day you calling me, man, you got no tent anymore because it collapsed because of the rain. And right. There was a huge lake of mud right in the middle of race festival. That rendered like the training area unpracticable. And we just had to support the racers. And I did race myself on that day. Man, that was like a super, and it was part of the mountain series. So the main reason why I wanted to race Whistler was because of the medal, because it was shaped like a mountain, and that was the one missing to my collection. So you're thinking like, all right, it's a super. I've done like maybe tens of them. It's a mountain, no big deal. But man, like I did the freaking Agoge, and that super is like close to the extreme experience of a HH or an Agoge. Like the weather made it so bad. Every obstacle was slippery. I think when you got to a certain altitude on a mountain, you couldn't see a thing. Like you want to enjoy the panorama in Whistler, but past a certain height, you couldn't see a thing with all clouds. I think it took me like forever to finish the race, and actually saw you right after. I think it was the multi-rig. You were crossing the bridge right before I got to the finish line, and you yelled out, "Go, Pascal!"
Listen, so you're absolutely right. Your memory's really good. Sprint has been standardized to 5K. Super, the mystery one, standardized to a 10K. I think it was standardized probably about that time or shortly after. So you might have got a couple of bonus kilometers in there. Like you said, depending on your race director, they care about you that much. They want to make sure you get the biggest experience. And if I'm not mistaken, there was also the trail race. That was the first time the trail race was featured alongside. Another race. So that was good. And you're right. Your memory is correct. It's the first time a US-led build crew. So you guys got the same exact production value that we're accustomed to and probably take for granted over here in the US. So that was really good. The weather was miserable.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say the weather was miserable. And it reminds me that I think you and I are only in the same time and space when the weather is miserable, because when you and I first met was for that hurricane heat, the 12-hour hurricane heat or 24-hour hurricane. Can't remember which one it was.
It was the H3X.
H3X, that's right. So that's where we first met, and that weather was miserable in those 24 hours. It rained, it snowed, it was cloudy, it was gray, it was every possible thing you can imagine except sunny. And that was miserable. And then Whistler was miserable. During your event at your gym, the workout tour, the weather was okay. It was kind of cold. That was actually the nicest weather we've ever had while we were in the same time and space. But
there you go, because you came at my gym and we're magical.
That's right. That's exactly what I was thinking. Yep.
But I remember Vermont, where we first met. The weather was actually way worse than it was in Whistler. That was the H3X. So people registered for a 4-hour race that could last for 24 hours if they chose to. So at each, like you did a 4-hour, and then at the end, they asked you if you wanted to go on. Then you did a 12-hour, and at the end, you chose or not to do the full 24-hour race. And we had 3 people actually in Vermont who completed that. They were really cool people. I remember like they were just normal people. They weren't like CrossFit elites, or they were just people that had the right mindset. I remember a girl, she was really cool too. I think she was from Jersey actually. And she smiled the whole event through. And believe me, people who are watching now, I've never seen worse weather for a race in my entire life. Like picture yourself like in between fall and winter, in the middle of a mountain in Vermont, no light whatsoever, and you got all weather conditions compressed in 24 hours. We had high winds. I remember sleeping in my car because I was the cameraman for that event, sleeping in my car and just like imagining myself in the middle of a cyclone or tornado. We had high winds, we had rain, heavy rain, super cold weather, and then sleet. And these people had to perform 24-hour events, like challenges. I think at one point we were on the trail and they lifted a 4x4. I still have the vids from that. Man, that was badass. you should edit that piece in, because the one thing, so for folks who are not certain what we're talking about, Spartan, obviously the largest obstacle course race company in the world, produces these endurance events called hurricane heats. H3X was, you had the opportunity, as Pascal said, to do the 4-hour version. And after the 4-hour, you can choose to stay and pursue the 12 or call it at 4, get your medal, your shirt, and it's good. But if you chose to go for the 12 and you didn't finish the 12, you forfeited the 4-hour collateral. Yeah,
so
that's right.
It'd be as if you did nothing. And if you go, if you choose to continue beyond the 12, but you don't finish 24, then you forfeit the 12-hour collateral and the 4-hour collateral. And essentially all you got was a very long workout in some horrible conditions. But what made things worse is we were synchronized with 4 other H3X locations around the world.
Yeah, that's right.
One of them had the most beautiful weather. They were on the beach and they were having fun, and it was synchronized. So every now and again we'd see footage, they'd see footage of us. We were competing against them with certain challenges to see which location, won the team competitions. We were the only ones with this miserable weather. And so, I had left it up to the participants, and I said, we can go through this as it's written, or we can create something epic because this sucks. So everyone says, let's everyone agreed, let's do something different. People are on the beach carrying bleachers. They're just living it up, getting their suntan. So we have a quad, a 4x4 that the medical team uses to rescue folks, pull them off the mountain or whatever. So that was our team weight, and we were carrying a quad 4x4 up the side of the mountain as a team, and rotating in and out and going through that chaos, which made it at least that portion fun and memorable. The rest
I'm gonna post it on my Instagram and Twitter at Sensei Pascal. That's a really cool idea to post it so people can see that, because I have that footage still. And it's just amazing sometimes to look at it. I remember that, like you said, I forgot that we had to synchronize. I think it was with Long Beach, California, if I'm not mistaken.
If I'm not mistaken, there was one in the Philippines. There was one. There was like three other.
We were going international for that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
so
everyone was signed so
and
that
one other state.
Yeah, and we had to do the live thing on social, but in Vermont we couldn't get a signal, so I would film you as if you were alive, like, and I'm crossing the fourth wall here. I'm so sorry about. I'm breaking the magic. But
yeah, let's leave some of the magic out there. But there were a lot of spontaneous band-aids in order to kind of pull off the original intent. But
yeah, we did that correctly. So I'm so sorry if you get in trouble for that.
No worries, I'm good.
But I remember that we used to shoot your intros as if you were getting a signal from somewhere, and ending it by right back at you. What's going on in your neck of the woods, like Chicago? And we would end the video like that. Then I would take all of my stuff, and I would have to drive down all of the way down the mountain through Joe DeSena's farm, and go to the first Spartan HQ building, which was like a small house, 2-story house. They had given me like the Wi-Fi password, and I would be sitting there uploading the vids with a quick caption. And then as soon as that was done and I got like the upload confirmation on my cell phone, I would drive all the way up and try to find you guys somewhere on the mountain for the next challenge. And we did that for like the straight 24 hours. And one of the challenges, I came back and you guys were like deep in the woods, so I couldn't reach you. It was like a long distance type of thing. So I told myself I'm gonna wait in the car, because obviously it was so cold and rainy and windy. And I just like told myself, I'm gonna close my eyes, I'll just catch a quick sleep. I woke up like 7 hours later.
Listen, that was a recurring theme. I had great teammates on the leadership side. I remember we had Mike Reedy, we had Danielle.
Yep. Yeah.
We had oh goodness, from Canada, Chris. No.
With
the beard,
Chris Stewie.
Stewie, that's right. Oh man, he was amazing. First of all, I was so unprepared, weather-wise, and he must have packed 3 of everything you could possibly need in case of a winter apocalypse. And I remember borrowing everything from footwear to pants to shirts to hoods. And I remember it was my turn to kind of just take a breather, take a break. And I fell out. And if it wasn't for Mike Reedy and those guys being on it, I would have got woken up a lot earlier, but I was able to get some good naps in there too. I can only imagine. I've never seen the footage. Man, I want to see it now that you're talking about it. I've never seen the footage.
I'm gonna send it to you.
It all spliced together. When you're throwing it from one country to the other. I could only imagine we look like some pretty horrible newscasters, and we're like, "Yeah, over to you." Hello. Hello. Does it look believable? Do you think we convinced them? I can only imagine.
You were holding a piece in your ear, and you had absolutely nothing to show for it.
Yeah,
that's the magic of a Spartan racing. We emit waves from our eardrums.
Exactly. Trail magic is what my buddy and teammate from Team Believe 93, Dan Luzzy. Trail magic is what he calls it. All that stuff that was happens, a fun one. Unplanned for. Yeah.
It's such amazing stories for 2 people who, because we've been texting and communicating since then. I consider you one of my best Spartan friends out there. Always cool to see you, my friend, and to communicate with you. But like for 2 people who we didn't meet each other not quite often, we do have some heavy stories to tell still. That's really cool.
You know what I've learned through Death Race and these 3 to 4, 5 day adventure type stuff is that if you have some suffering in common with someone, your relationship, or at a minimum, the depth of meaning for that relationship is almost as deep, and sometimes deeper than someone you know your whole life. And
Yep.
I'm not quite sure how many people can relate with what I'm saying, but I know for a fact, when I've spent a couple of days suffering alongside somebody, it's like, that's such a unique experience that you don't repeat so often in life. So it reserves a special place in your own personal growth, but in relationship with everyone that was there to experience it with you, whether they were on the leadership side, putting you through it, or if they were, alongside you going through that journey. So I think that's what happened. Like I said, Whistler, miserable. H3X, miserable. I crashed on your futon, not so miserable. But, those are
Hey, the pizza, you bought pizza in Vermont for the people there, because you thought, and you were right, they got it way worse than the other three Xers in the world for the event. And you did buy, or the race bought, or whatever, but we did have pizza on the second night, which was awesome. And there was also pizza involved after the workout, or after like your work around the clock. So pizza is good memories too.
Pizza creates memories, and I can't remember that spot. And that's in Canada. I had Canadian pizza.
There you go.
When I was
That's the right kind of pizza.
It was good. We'll leave it there. It was good. I don't want to start an international situation here. Let's keep it simple.
You're close to Brooklyn, and that's a huge spot for pizza. At least to my personal experience, that's one of the things I wanted to do when I was in Brooklyn, to find just a pizza joint on the corner of the street, go in and just try a slice of everything. But that's like your tradition. You consume pizza by the slice, and that's kind of odd, because in Canada, it's a whole pie of one flavor with a few veggies on top, always.
Yeah, no, we get creative down here. Did you get a chance to get your pizza in Brooklyn? Have you done that yet?
Yeah, I did. I was in Brooklyn for the WrestleMania weekend, I think 4 years ago, for WrestleMania 35. And actually, Brooklyn impressed me a lot. I thought it was... I think the city changed a lot in the last decade, because I didn't picture Brooklyn as a higher class, and I don't want to be disrespectful here. It was just my impression that it was just middle class, kind of like that, ordinary. And again, it's not meant to be demeaning. It's like my city is also like an ordinary city. I think it was just a regular town, but it's pretty high end. I mean, the houses were awesome, like English style. Downtown was actually pretty freaking looking good, like pretty rich. And the Barclay Center that's there.
Barclay Center,
yeah. Barclay Center. It's state of the art. I mean, the architecture is just amazing. So I had really had a good time. It was a nice discovery actually for me, and walking down Brooklyn Bridge and everything. That was really nice. So yeah, the chicken Alfredo pizza is also a good memory of mine from Brooklyn. There you go.
Yeah, I don't go deep into experimenting. I'm pretty much a hard-nosed pepperoni pizza kind of guy. If I'm with my wife and kids, we'll do the Hawaiian pizza thing. If it's just me and my wife, we'll do the green peppers and onions. Apart from that, anything extra is extra. But I'm from Jersey. I'm a Jersey boy. So I'm sure people listening to this from Brooklyn are not going to take offense. You only know about any place what you see, and unfortunately in media and videos, you only see certain parts of certain cities. So you don't know that there's a higher end to that very same city. You just know you just become familiar with the parts where there's a little more struggling going on. So that's everywhere, right? Like you said, your city, where I'm from. All over New York, but yeah, there's been
I really had a good
development
time in Brooklyn. I always have a good time when I get to NYC and parts of Jersey. Jersey, I haven't visited that much, but I've been in New York and Manhattan maybe 10 times now. It's like it's another world in itself. really completely. But if we go back to maybe a main subject here, because we spoke about all of the adventures that we lived through endurance events and all of these races that we did, and we actually spoke about like the bond that we form through endurance events. I think 3 episodes ago with Andy Hardy, I had Andy on the podcast, and we did have an awesome talk. And you can listen or watch it with the link in the episode description right now, or after this amazing interview with the one and only Runaway Diaz. Yeah, you're absolutely right. What I told her, and what I still find true to this day, is that when you and it comes from my martial arts teaching experience, when we do teach or instruct a belt exam, which can be way more grueling than people think, depending on the style that you're practicing, because sometimes they're not just technical exams, they're way much more that you can think. Actually, it's more apparent to our endurance race than it could be a technical exam. But long story short, people that do suffer together, I would like to maybe use the term, that do live these transcending experiences together, they bond. Like it's a brotherhood, because you feel, you live things that even your most closest friends, or maybe your significant other, would not understand, that they haven't lived or experienced before. So you come in a space where you cannot, you can't express what you've lived and what you've learned through these experiences, but you don't find that common bond. And it's something you might be, in some cases, more intimate with your bros and sis from these events that you can be with your closest friends, your parents, or even your significant other. I don't know if that makes any sense to you, but to me, I find that it does.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. That's exactly the way. Not just do I think that, that's actually what's happened in real life. You know, I have some long-lasting relationships with people that I may only see once every couple of years, and those relationships appear to be more profound because of that. You know, suffering alongside, being able to be a part of one another's struggle and one another's victory. And by victory, I also mean victory in defeat as well. You know, I know at least my personal journey in endurance events hasn't always been one where I make it to the finish line a couple of days later successfully, but there's victory even in that failure. And these are people alongside of you, you know, pushing you, and you supporting them. And yeah, deep bonds for sure, man.
Yeah, maybe we should take a quick tour through your racing resume, because we've never spoken about it together. So where you come from in that dimension, you said that you won some, lost some. Maybe we could go through these quick, maybe in 5 minutes. Have a quick resume of what you've done. I think you've done the death race once or twice. You've done like 100-milers too, or long distance races as well. You're always all over the place doing these amazing feats. So maybe take us through them.
Well, it's going to be quicker than 5 minutes, I assure you. It's not that long of a resume.
Too humble.
It's also not that impressive of a resume either. But yeah, since we'll talk about it. The short story is, founded obstacle course racing 2011. A buddy of mine said, "Hey, we just did this thing called Tough Mudder. You get electrocuted, you jump here, you crawl here." And immediately, for some reason, I was like, that sounds like fun. So I did some research, and sure enough, there's electrocution happening, there's torture happening. And then my thought was, well, someone has to benefit out of this butt whooping. I'm not just going to sign up for the torture. So my son and I decided to do it as a bonding thing. And then we said, you know what, let's turn it into a fundraiser. And there's a young man from our town here, Eric Legrand, who was recently paralyzed at that time. His paralysis was obtained through a football game, and playing college football at Rutgers. So we said, let's make this a fundraiser to help the family out. And so that's what we did. We just started doing obstacle course races and used those as fundraisers. Eventually, we got a call from Massachusetts, and Chris Massey, he says, "Hey, I got a buddy. We've been seeing what you do for adaptive athletes, and I got a buddy, a paralyzed guy. We think you'd be able to take him through a Spartan race. And, you know, or this was before Spartan race, through a Tough Mudder. And, you know, we're like, we can help raise funds. I don't know what to do with a paralyzed person. Unfortunately, I'm just not educated. This guy, Tim Morris, one of our Team Believe 923 members, our very first paralyzed teammate, taught us so much about how to work with the paralyzed body, what to look out for, all the pitfalls, and also how to help them train to strengthen some of their existing parts and, you know, members that they can use so they can do everything they can with whatever they have left. And then we fill in the blank as team members. So we did Tough Mudders with them. And then Tim says, hey, have you heard of Spartan Race? Turns out my college buddy is on the legal team for Spartan Race. And he says to come on over, stop doing Tough Mudders. That's fun stuff. Come do a Spartan Race. So we thought it's going to be like another Tough Mudder. Let's go. We signed up for our very first Spartan Race. We didn't know anything. All we knew is that we signed up for Killington. It was 2014 World Championship. We got our butts handed to us. One of our teammates popped his Achilles in the first mile. Another one dislocated, Sean, I remember he dislocated shoulder, jumping a wall. There are 20 something of us. The workload was distributed amongst probably 8 or 9 of us. The rest we were just defeated, unprepared. And then coming down the mountain, Joe DeSena, founder of Spartan Race, looks at Tim on the wheelchair, blue lips, cold, it's raining, it's miserable. We're 4 to 6 miles in, but we're abandoning the effort because now it's dangerous. And Joe says to Tim, so you couldn't finish? And we were just blown away. We're like, how dare him ask our paralyzed teammate in our time of, you know, of these negative emotions we're going through. We just got defeated and he's going to just rub it in our face. And that was pretty much right there is what we learned. Hey, you know, what Joe was trying to say is what's next? You thought you're going to come up here, show up and conquer something that half the people that show up with fully functioning bodies can't do. What's your response going to be? And so then, you know, we understood that. And then we started preparing and we started conquering Spartan races. Tim became the first paralyzed athlete, to earn a trifecta, then a double trifecta in the same calendar year. We had another paralyzed teammate, Lindsay Runkles, who became the second paralyzed athlete, and she was the first female. And that's really been what defines my success. Team Believe 923 on Instagram and Facebook. It's all about, I measure my success by how many lives I'm impacting. So that's where my victories are happening. On the personal side, I've done 3 death races. I DNF'd all 3. There's no victory on the death on Nelson by himself side. I enjoy those events. They are 2 to 4 days in nature. I've learned so much about myself. I could go on to describe so many stories that'll probably have you laughing to tears, all at my expense, I assure you. But yeah, there's been a lot of growth there. I do enjoy the longer distance races, the ultras and longer. My advantage is I'm stubborn. Some people have the athletic ability as the advantage. They're disciplined, they're training. I'm a workaholic, so I don't train as much as I should. I'm trying to work on that right now, balancing my life a little bit better in that regard so I can train more so that I'm not taking such a beating on these long distance races. But I enjoy them and it feels good seeing that I get a little further in these every time out, you know, and seeing other people drop off, not because they're not fit, but because there's a mentally challenging part. It's 2-3 o'clock in the morning. It's snowing. It's cold. You're wet. Maybe you're tired. You have cramps. You didn't bring the right food. You're low on something else, you know, and then just gritting it, gutting it out. You know, yep. I enjoy that process. Yep. As well, although I'm nowhere near as where I'd like to be and hope to be in the next year. So that's it. That's the short version of my story.
It's a really cool one.
I have yet to complete a 100-mile race. I've attempted a couple of them. Snowshoeing, actually. My very first 100-mile attempt was a snowshoe race because I figured, well, I never snowshoed and I never tried to run 100 miles. Let me kill 2 birds with 1 stone. And do both. Yeah. As you can imagine.
What's a snowshoe run, actually?
Well, you're wearing snowshoes, and it's on a mountain, right. And it's for 100 miles, and
that's it. I mean, that's it. It's not simple, obviously, but I thought like snowshoes and go on. I thought that was like a brand name or something. But what's the difference between? I'm sorry if I'm a beginner in there, and that in that sense, I shouldn't be because I'm from Canada and from Quebec City, of all places. So I should know about snowshoes, but I don't. So what's the difference between snowshoes and like hiking boots or hiking shoes?
Well, again, my advantage is being stubborn. I didn't know much of the difference of anything until I showed up. I knew.
All right.
I know that they're specialized shoes. They don't look like the tennis rackets on the bottom of your boots like they show in the cartoons. I thought they did. I thought they were still tennis racket looking things. First, I actually, before I ran one, the year before, I was part of the staff to help produce one for Peak Races on Joe's property. So that's when I found out, oh, snowshoes, they don't, they've evolved. There's adjustments, they're narrower. They're not this clunky things. At least they don't necessarily have to be. When you saw me with snowshoes during the H3X, because I had to walk through some of the route to make sure it was manageable for our people, they gave me some 1800s snowshoes as a practical joke. And I'm a city boy. I didn't know the difference. So I was like, man, these are huge. It's like wearing mini surfboards on the bottom of each shoe. It was horrible. I kept falling all over the place. But anyway, so snowshoes.
Oh, I just got it. I think it's the term that did not come to mind in terms of English versus French, but we use. I think what you mean, what I can understand from that is like those small. They look like rackets, and you wear them as shoes. That's snowshoes.
Well, that's in cartoons from like the 1700s, I guess.
All right, that's what I thought. They're pretty small, like rectangular a bit. They make you like float on snow, but you do have to run like on a large stance because of the actual shoe, right?
Well, that's how they used to be. I thought they were still like that. No, now they're narrow. They're nice and narrow. They probably stick out on the side of your feet, maybe half an inch.
Wow.
It depends it depends on the fluffiness of the snow, the teeth, the weather, whether it's ice. There's so many it's like going to a store for basketball shoes, and then you want high tops or you want mid tops. Do you want support in the front? Do you want more bounce in the back, more cushion here? There's so many varieties. All I know is that I'm stubborn enough to show up practically clueless and get my butt handed to me and have a good time and still not finish the 100-miler. And that's my resume. I show up, I have a good time. I stubbornly make my way through. I leave hurting and not quite at the finish line.
Yeah, and you come back for more.
and come back for more.
That's the right attitude. You cannot ask for more than that. Just to show up, deal with stuff. And you spoken about the 2014 race in Vermont, and we're going to go back in a few minutes with your experience helping out adaptive athletes, because I think that's a really cool subject to end the podcast on. But you've spoken about just showing up and doing things, and that's it. I remember signing up for my first beast, and that was the 2014 race in Vermont. And I wasn't that aware of the Spartan race, like championship thing, or like the whole organization back then. It was just, there's another level of racing. I want to sign up for that. And when's the next race? It's in Vermont. So sign up, pay, and show up. But I did not know that was the world championship. So I got there, and my challenge to me was I wanted to challenge myself and see what I was worth, quote unquote, naked in the woods with little to no resources. So I showed up like with short shorts, my running shoes, and I had that small of a bottle on an arm brace, and that was my Gatorade, like 250 millimeters to do the whole course. I didn't know what I was facing. I was just throwing myself out there. So picture 25K of like hell, but had maybe add 2 more layers because it's in Vermont on Killington and it's the World Championship. So all of the obstacles are like out there. I still remember like having to swim across the lake and having to try to Tarzan swing yourself just below the bridge and try to hit the belt, which I never completed in my entire racing career, and then swim another distance to like a small beach or small area where 95% of the people will start to cramp up. I did not, luckily, and then you just continue on your merry way. And I experienced the worst cramps in my life on the second lap, or on the third or second barbed wire crawl. I cannot remember. I lost maybe 45 to an hour worth of time below the actual barbed wire, stretching myself, because I would stretch my quads, then my buttocks would cramp up. I would stretch my buttocks, then my quads would cramp up, then my lower leg, then my calves. Like, it was just cycling over and over and over again. I was completely depleted in all electrolytes, vitamins, and life, and water, and everything in between. All that was left was skin and my bones. But for some reason, that worked out, and I finished the race. And that was still one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life, because, like you said, you just show up, do the thing like you're a newbie, slash foolish a bit, but you just endure the thing. And I had cramps like for 12 hours after the race. I was trying to drive from Vermont to Montreal. I had a stick shift car. Oh, that was difficult. Every time I would change gear, I would cramp up. Like, I would drive like sideways in my car, one hand on the wheel and one hand trying not to bend my knee because I would start to cramp up. I actually went to the 99 restaurant in Vermont after the race. Like, I'm gonna like take some calories in and some sodium. I need that. And I was eating, like, my fingers were like that. I was eating all my hands were cramped up. I was on my side and trying to eat. My then girlfriend would look at me like, I don't want to do that. And she couldn't drive stick shift, so I had to drive the whole way back. So thank you for that memory. You took me back on that 2014 suckfest that we call the World Championship from Spartan when you're a newbie.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing that was both of our first Spartan race, and we didn't cross pads, or you would have known us because we were with the wheelchair and an adaptive athlete. It was a huge production for us, our very first Spartan race like that. But that was when they used to have the memory test obstacle.
Yeah.
And so you're taking a beating, you're emotionally going through something psychologically, and now you have to memorize something and repeat it to somebody maybe 3 miles later. So there was, and if I'm not mistaken, I'm not sure, but I think they may have had the double sandbag carry as well.
Yeah, they did. I remember that too. Yeah. Oh, yes, they did. That was one of the last obstacles before the finish line. And I do remember your alphanumeric test. They should have that still. I thought that was amazing. They gave you like a letter and 3 numbers. And I remember now just running down the slopes on Killington, repeating over and over and over again the same combination, because you would never know when they would ask it. And you would come like just a roundabout, you would turn like a line of trees, you would hit a trail, and there were 2 Spartan people there. What's your combination? We're like, oh, that's the time. And you either like blurt it out or try just to tell it, or you were doing 30 burpees. And at that time, you didn't want to do the 30 burpees because you were deep in the race. That was a killer on that event. But yeah, I remember that, the memory test. That was awesome.
Yeah,
do that
was
again.
Good. No, I'm good.
Good memories. So we're going back to Team Believe 923 before we end the podcast. Because I think that would be a really relevant subject to help people with, because I'm sure that people that do have physical challenges, or maybe psychological one or mental ones, we all have our hardships to deal with. In your experience, maybe for adaptive athletes or anybody with that kind of disability, what would be your 3 pieces of advice on how to overcome those and keep performing or keep like getting across that finish line, whichever it may be? Might be a race, but might be something else, getting that job, getting that dream project done. What would be your 3 pieces of advice on that?
Man, that's a great question. I'm gonna blurt out what comes to mind, which may change if I have more time to think about it. But the first thing, and it's beyond racing, and it's beyond people with disabilities, but know who you are. Know that, just like what I do for a living, to earn a living for my family, to provide for my family, that's not who I am. That's what I'm doing to provide for my family. And if you have certain challenges, whether they're physical or, like you mentioned, emotional, psychological, whatever it is, because Lord knows we're all taking a beating in life, right? Just the beating is different for between individuals, but we're taking a beating nonetheless. We need that reminder as well. Your current circumstance is not who you are. It's just a circumstance. If you're paralyzed from the waist down, that's not who you are. That's just a circumstance that you're conquering life with, and you're conquering life differently. Matter of fact, a good buddy I just met maybe a year and a half ago, Jim from Team Special Compass. They have special needs athletes as well that they deal with. He doesn't call his teammates disabled. He says differently abled. That's the way he addresses them. Differently abled. So know who you are. Know that what you do to provide for your family, that's what you do to provide for your family. That's not who you are. And if you are in a wheelchair, that's not who you are. That's just a circumstance. That's just a situation that you find yourself in.
Very good.
Get to know yourself and be courageous and confident enough to live out your life knowing whose you are and who you are. And that's a deeper process right there.
Yeah, that would be number
those
1.
Things out. Yep, that'd be number 1. Number 2, prepare you to do everything you can. And I believe God will put the people around you to fill in the blanks. So when it comes to my teammates that are paralyzed, for example, Tim, he's paralyzed from the chest down, but he has hands. He became a certified strength and conditioning coach after his paralysis because he could still use his brain. So he wheelbarrows entire Spartan races. He's the only human on the planet to wheelbarrow entire races. We're supporting his hips and his legs because he can't move those, but he can move his arms. So he's wheelbarrowing. He's doing everything he can. So my encouragement to everyone, whether you have a physical challenge or if you're just going on through your day-to-day in life, is you're responsible for you. Do everything you can for you, using everything that you can use. And those blanks, God's going to put people around you to help fill in those blanks. But it all starts with you, representing your family, and putting in that work. And then the third thing, wow, probably kind of lines up with the first one, but don't give up. There's more victory found in failure than in never attempting.
That's really good.
You can find victory in failing. I found victory in my life in many areas as I fumbled through and failed certain things, because the cliche is it's not the destination, it's the journey.
Yep.
Right? So with that mindset, in that journey, there are victories along the line, whether you fail that particular race or event or project or whatever. Who cares? Absorb the victories. I'm going to add a fourth one. Celebrate your victory when it happens and then move on.
Oh.
Tomorrow, today's victory is meaningless. Tomorrow. I got challenges tomorrow and victory to pursue for tomorrow on tomorrow. I know what happened in the past and I can take joy and be proud of and share, but not live it. Don't live in the past. And that goes for the good and the bad. Don't live in the past. If you have an injury, if you have a challenge, that's part of your past. Live through it, live victoriously. And as you are victorious in anything and everything in your life, Don't stay stuck on that victory.
You're absolutely right. As long as you learn something from either side of the spectrum, whether it's black from a loss or white from a victory, these are all ephemeral. So don't dwell on victory and don't dwell on losses either. Learn from them. In martial arts, we say it's either win or learn. But learn,
Right.
there's always something to be learned from an experience. And then the next day, it's you improved that still has to learn something from another upcoming experience. And experiences by experiences, that's how you grow.
And you're right. We're inspired by others. Don't lose sight of the fact that you're also inspiring others
That's
as well.
Where I was going with this. Absolutely.
It's that bond we were talking about, that bond in the suffering. That's right. It's come around full circle. That's right.
There you go.
Yeah, man.
I went through that so many times. You guys out there, whether you have any like new ability, or you're able differently, I do use your feats to inspire other people. Like when I've got someone who's fully healthy, has got their 4 limbs and are still complaining about stuff, I get a little PO'd. And then it's my own pleasure to show them a video of someone legless performing a Spartan race. And he's giving it his all, and he's going out there and he's not complaining about a thing. He's doing his thing. So if he's able to do that and not complain about that, what are you doing on your couch with your 4 limbs and your health and still complaining? That to me, it just it startles me.
Well, we all need help with our perspective at times. And you know, like you said, a video of seeing somebody conquer something with less, what appears to be less resources than you have, you know, then that kind of helps put things in perspectives, you know, gives us maybe helps us feel a little guilty or a little more empowered or fired up to tackle something we've been avoiding. So yeah.
If it works, if it gets you going, then it's worth the effort, I think.
That's right. Totally.
Hey man, that's been like, we were supposed to talk for about 20 minutes. This is a short format kind of podcast.
Okay.
And we've been talking for an hour. But
wow. All right.
It flew by so fast. I think honestly, this has been one of the most organic interviews I've done in a long time. So thank you for giving me that time. It was so cool to reconnect with you, my friend. Really had a good time speaking with you today.
Oh, same here, man. I know we've been trying to put this together for probably a couple of months. So I'm glad we were able to finally coordinate and make it happen, man. It's always a pleasure, here to serve. Make sure you, and this goes to all your viewers and listeners out there, when you take a look at your past in preparation for your future, ask yourself, have I impacted enough lives? Have I comforted enough? Have I loved enough? Have I been vulnerable enough? Have I reached out to others? Have I served? And the answer for me personally is no, I have not. I have work to do. And I believe that might be the answer for you. So let's get to work. We got people to help.
And that's going to be a quote on IG. And it will be a quote that you'll see on my Instagram at Sensei Says Pod. Of course, Nelson, of course. And thank you for taking the time to chat with me. Had an awesome time. Now let's see what I've learned through my conversation with Nelson in terms of how to overcome your disability or any illness or any situation, hardship that you have, an obstacle that stands in your way towards a certain goal or a certain objective. Number one, know who you are. Whether you have a physical disability, mental illness, or a certain emotional situation you're living through, like maybe a death of a close one, maybe it's a recent breakup, do not let that determine who you are, because you're someone that's higher, stronger, bigger than a certain situation. Do not limit your identity to that hardship. Try to see beyond that. Try maybe to focus on what's your benefits, what's your advantages, what's actually working. Maybe, yeah, you're dealing with a breakup. Maybe, yeah, you're missing maybe half a leg, but you might have a really strong upper body. You might have maybe unnatural athleticism, a way for you to learn things very quick and be to adapt yourself to a certain situation. So at the end, you're going to be better at certain things. So do not limit the vision of yourself to that disability, to that illness, or that negative emotion you might be feeling at the current time. It's not who you are. It's part of your identity. But like I said, it's just a part of. You're much more than just that. Number 2, you're responsible for yourself. It bounces back my first piece of advice actually, but try not to focus on your disability. If you're missing a leg, yeah, that's a circumstance, but focus on what you can actually improve. You can control your upper body strength. You can control your mental resilience. You can train all of that. Maybe you can inspire yourself from people like Terry Fox, who didn't stop at their own disability, but focused on something they wanted to accomplish and actually did it, and inspired so many people in the process. And like I said in the interview, I'm sure you do as well. We know so many people who are perfectly healthy, got 4 functional limbs, and still find the time to complain and give excuses like, I don't have the time, I'm too tired, blah, blah, blah. For me, I'm not that type of guy. So it kind of falls into deaf ears with me, because you are able to do that. Yeah, but no, there's no yeah, but. You try to do that, and I actually do that. I actually show people the videos of these legless people, these amazing, inspirational human beings, and they're inspirational to me too. So remember, you control much more than you think. There's so many variables that you can play with, improve on, and be successful at what you desire. Do not let yourself be limited by your circumstance. And number 3, do not give up, and that's universal. You're going to fall, you're going to fail, you're going to fear, and all of these experiences will help you grow. These are not good experiences. Tell me the last time you were smiling as you were really genuinely afraid of something, or really hurt, or really discouraged. These are really negative emotions, and they're part of the human experience. We have to experience them, but we have to process them the proper way, in a more productive way, I should say. And not giving up is one of them. So acknowledge these failures, feelings, fears, but try to take the other side of the thing and try to point out, identify what you can actually learn from these experiences. A fear will point something inside of you that you maybe need to work on. A failure will point something that you still haven't improved upon. Those are all positive outcomes of something that at first could be perceived as really negative. So do not give up. Now it's your turn, Seïtos. Did you overcome a disability, illness, hardship recently and still achieved your goals and dreams? Please leave your pieces of advice in the comments, or reach me on my social media at Sensei Says Pod. If you've liked this week's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a positive review on Apple Podcasts, sign up to the free weekly newsletter, and if you're in need for more inspiration, I thoroughly suggest episode number 20 with the amazing Andy Hardy. She's got an incredible life story to tell, and you won't believe the adventures she's lived in endurance racing. Hope you like it. On that note, Seïtos, you are dismissed. Thank you for watching and or listening.